The FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 election. Could they also cover something like this up? Of course they could. It's the whole operation. China had mass-produced fake U.S. driver's licenses to carry out a scheme to hijack the 2020 election with fake mail-in ballots for Joe Biden. You're kidding me! Kash Patel now declassifying documents he say were related to a Chinese conspiracy in the 2020 election. You're kidding me. Yeah, he wrote this on X, said, the FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 election, including allegations of interference by the CCP, the Chinese. I have immediately declassified the material and turned the documents over to Chairman Grassley for further review. So we have to ask ourselves, right? Where did these documents come in and what happened to the documents? Why were they buried for so long? Remember, FBI was run by Christopher Wray at the time. They had a strong interest in covering everything up since they helped create January 6th. And Joe Biden was thrown into power as part of the oligarchical ruling class, and nobody talked about this stuff in the meantime. So now the FBI has located it, and this is the same FBI, to remind you, that let guys who are trafficking humans and children like Kilmar Abrego Garcia continue on with their criminality. Okay, they're trafficking people across the United States. Local cops call the feds. Feds say, let them go. No traffic ticket for speeding, of course. No traffic ticket for driving on a suspended license or without a valid license. No traffic ticket for no proof of insurance. No traffic ticket for seatbelt violations or unsafe passengers being transported in cargo. Nothing like that. Instead, they just let him go. Have a nice trip. Continue on. They knew he was doing it, obviously. They knew he was doing it for a long time. That's why Van Hollen went down there to go have a conversation with his compadres down there in El Salvador, the other half of the MS-13 gangbangers. But anyways, now we ask ourselves, could they also cover something like this up? Of course they could. It's the whole operation. So here's what Kash said. He linked this article over from Just the News, which has the details. Shout out to John Solomon at justthenews.com. Says FBI Director Kash Patel on Monday evening turned over to Congress an intelligence report raising concerns that China had mass-produced fake U.S. driver's licenses to carry out a scheme to hijack the 2020 election with fake mail-in ballots for Joe Biden. You're kidding me! I thought this was impossible. The newly declassified intelligence reports from August 2020 weren't corroborated or fully investigated, of course not, and instead were recalled from intelligence agencies at around the time that then FBI Director Chris Wray testified that there were no known plots of foreign interference ahead of 2020. Christopher Wray lied ahead of the 2020 election. The new documents were turned over to Chuck Grassley, senator from Iowa, who had first raised concerns to the Bureau that the intelligence hadn't been fully vetted and instead was just dismissed, even though there was evidence of these fake licenses. And thanks to the oversight work and the partnership of Grassley, the FBI continues to provide unprecedented transparency at the People's Bureau. And to that end, we have located documents which detail alarming allegations related to 2020. Specifically, these include allegations of plans from the CCP to manufacture fake driver's licenses and ship them into the United States for purposes of facilitating fraudulent mail-in ballots. Allegations which, while substantiated, were abruptly recalled and never disclosed to the public. Patel added, in accordance with Grassley's request for the documents, I've immediately declassified the material and turned it over to Grassley for further review. Now, officials who have seen the documents told Just the News the FBI had a relatively new confidential source who provided information in the summer of 2020 that the Chinese government was manufacturing and exporting fake U.S. driver's licenses as part of a plot to create voter IDs for Chinese residents living in the United States so they could vote with fake mail-in ballots. The intelligence source also claimed the plot was specifically designed to benefit Joe Biden. So the Chinese release the virus, then they send over the fake ballots, saying the intelligence source claimed that it was help Joe, we know it. Officials said the intelligence report was recalled within a few weeks, and the allegations were never fully investigated because Xi Jinping's assets in the FBI said, on the grounds the source needed to be re-interviewed. Yeah. But in fact, another agency, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, had actually intercepted nearly 20,000 fake licenses in one batch around the time the intelligence came in as corroboration of the report. So shocking, except not that shocking, because we know that we were in the middle of a full-blown global operation back during the COVID era. We also see that those so-called Chinese PhD scholars who came into our country bringing in biohazardous materials are going to stay in custody, not getting out of court. They're waiving their right to a hearing in court. Says Zhengqing Jian and Zhengzhuan Han said in separate court appearances that they're not going to challenge the government's request to keep them locked up. They said this is a constantly evolving situation involving a large number of factors, said Han's attorney told the judge. She didn't elaborate and later declined to comment. So they might feel safer in federal custody for whatever reason. Mugshot of Han, who was arrested at Detroit Metro Airport for smuggling in biohazards, and this other woman, Jian, also the same. Han was arrested after arriving on a flight from China, where she is pursuing an advanced degree. She planned to spend a year completing a project at the University of Michigan lab, and she's accused of shipping biological materials that look like this with fungi and worms. It was intercepted by authorities. The material is related to worms and lacked a government permit. Jean's case is different. They brought in the fungus, Fusarium graminearium, which can attack wheat, barley, maize, and rice and even make you sick if you get it. The boyfriend was turned away at the airport, sent back to China after they found red biomaterials in his backpack. Jean also worked at the university lab. She was caught at the airport. Her attorneys have declined to comment. Federal authorities have not said that they have a plan to release the fungus anywhere. Not yet. Scientists have been studying it for decades. It's called a vomit toxin, meaning it causes livestock to throw up, causes diarrhea, even headache and fever in people. Researchers often bring foreign plants in to study them, but they got to get certain permits. University has not been accused of misconduct yet. It has said it received no money from China for these people, and it said it strongly condemns actions that undermine our mission. All right, so Chinese rigging elections, releasing pandemics, and now sending in so-called PhD biomaterials researchers into our country, buying up farmland around our military bases, owning all the GNCs that supply supplements to our U.S. Marines outside of those same military facilities and more. And so the problem is massive. But we also know it's not just China. Texas AG Ken Paxton is now launching an investigation into 33 non-citizens suspected of illegally voting. Shout out to Benny for flagging this one. Says Attorney General Paxton opened up investigations into 33 non-citizens who allegedly voted in 2024, saying non-citizens must not be allowed to vote to influence these elections. And I will use my way to the office to investigate this voter fraud. We must trust our elections, and the results must be determined by our own citizens, not foreign nationals. The referral from Secretary Nelson comes after Texas gained access to the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services SAVE database, right? We got a database that works now. Texas was able to access the database following Trump's signing of the order, and now the database is offered at no cost. And so now we can start checking things. Amazing. Attorney Paxton has been a champion for election integrity. He also indicted and arrested 6 people, including public officials, which we covered about previously on the show in Frio County. So we know there are foreigners in our country who are voting in our elections. They told us that there was no evidence of widespread voter fraud. They said that they investigated it, blah, blah, blah. They didn't. The FBI just sat on it because they know exactly what happened. In fact, they were complicit in it, saying we don't know what's going on with anything until Joe Biden was perfectly ensconced in power and they didn't have to deal with Trump anymore. So shout out to Kash for releasing and declassifying those documents, at least to Grassley for now. Hopefully Grassley reviews it and publishes it. And we know Grassley's pretty good about this. So if anybody's going to get their hands on the documents, we're glad that Grassley got them. Hopefully they're released immediately and we can see what China did.